Representando a todos los Alvis en los Estados Unidos con Dro Breeze.
You are listening to,
you already know,
the DroInTheKnow podcast with your host,
the one and only
Dro Breeze.
Happy New Year, Happy New Week, and welcome to the first ever episode of the DroInTheKnow podcast. I am your host, Dro Breeze. Many of you people know me from the original The Three Wise Men podcast, and just want to thank all the supporters that are tuning in and listening, whether it's at home, working from home, on your drive back home, or driving to work, or whatever the situation. I just want you guys to sit back and relax. So first of all, I just want to clarify some things, and that is the Three and the Wise Men podcast is still ongoing. No, does not determine it's the end. Doesn't determine that we're in some beef or anything like that. I mean, we are still three tight friends that we go way back. And, you know, anytime you may even see one of the members come in and just try to tune in with one of the episodes. But I want to give a big shout out to DJ Blintz for making this whole podcast even a reality when we first started off earlier in 2020. It was a great experience, and it still is going to be an experience whenever everybody can get the scheduling right, because as you know, when three people are in different locations of the continent, it is super hard to try to get everybody on the same schedule. I don't know if you guys know this, but we are kind of in different time zones. Well, me and Blends are kind of in the same time zone, but you know, with my homeboy Greto out there in Illinois, it's very hard to tune in, and with everybody's work schedule, it's a blast. We hope to continue making that happen, and we will make that happen eventually. But just for now, just tune in, just sit back, relax. Welcome to kind of the unofficial spinoff of the Three Wise Men podcast. And, I promised as Dro Breeze here on this episode as an introduction, I want to welcome everybody. Okay. Man, 2020 was one of the craziest experiences that I can actually even think of since the beginning of my life at this point. The whole thing about the whole COVID, it was just a shit show, man. I don't even know how to explain that. I mean, if you go back if we do a quick recap of everything that we went through in 2020, from the whole Trump administration almost starting a war off with the Iranian government, to Kobe Bryant and his beautiful daughter, passing away in that horrible, tragic helicopter accident, to the whole official pandemic alert throughout the world where, it was a horrible situation, man. And I'm just trying to tell you, on a personal matters, I had one of the worst nightmares happen to me, man. I had a family member pass away. I had a friend pass away. It was crazy. And during the whole entire pandemic, I mean, even crossing the border, I mean, that was fucking hell, man. I had to do the quarantine twice. Can you believe that? 14 days. If you add that together, that's 28 days of quarantine in an entire year of not doing anything but being isolated until you can merge into somebody else's bubble, especially with the family and everything like that. I hope everybody had a happy holiday despite all that bullshit that we had to go through. It was not easy, and it's still not easy. Even with the vaccines out, there's still a lot of uncertainty. We don't even really know where we are with this whole situation. And, unfortunately, we don't really have any leadership until, January 20th, I believe, or if I'm incorrect, around that time frame when the new administration gets, sworn in. But in the meantime, we just got to go through it. We've been rolling with the punches. The human mind is stronger than what we think. It really is. I mean, if you really think about it, at first it was super hard just to get a grip of this whole pandemic thing. If you look at the grocery stores and how everybody was acting out of their fucking minds. If you really look back, think about it. You had the toilet paper situation, and this wasn't just happening in Seattle. It was happening in every city, and even in Canada, fucking the world, man. I mean, this shit was worldwide. And then it went from that to, people just trying to adapt working from home, and many people lost their jobs, and it was just a fucking terrible time. And we're still dealing with the aftermath of all that. So if you just look back in this whole year and you just think about everything, just think about what you learn during this pandemic and how much stronger you are as a person starting off 2021 compared to 2020. I mean, I can tell you one thing for sure. I learned one thing about myself, and that was not only is the mind stronger than I thought it was originally, but you can adapt to a lot of things quickly on the drop of a dime. I mean, we went from having, New Year's resolution back in 2019 when, 2020 was about to get lit. We were thinking it was going to be the roaring 20s. And then you look back at that time, that shit didn't age well. That shit didn't age well at all. And then you went into, 2020, coming on mind strong, having goals and everything. It was just all of a sudden suddenly canceled. And that just hit the fan. But, when you look back, you started off the year in uncertainty, and now you've adapted. You've become a better person. And, you went from having goals to, having your favorite mask, and going to, understanding the whole 6 feet social distancing and the whole quarantine thing. And some people, as you know, some people don't want to follow the rules. And, that's so unfortunate because it's sad to know those situations. Because if I go back to when I was a kid, back in elementary, back in Coquitlam, back in the hometown out in Canada, you think about the one time, but I actually think about this all the time. But when I had a social studies teacher who told me that, back during World War II, out here in the entire West Coast, he told me that they had to turn off the lights and ration because of the whole situation with the Japanese. They had to turn off all the lights and all the electricity at 6 o'clock. So the bombers would have a hard time, targeting cities. And people back then were able to do that. And when you fast forward almost, less than 100 years from now, you start noticing that people don't want to do their part. So I understand now that term about the greatest generation, because if you compare it to this generation, I hate to say it to you, and I mean, I am part of this, but unfortunately, we are not on that same level. And, this is just a pandemic, and, pandemics will happen in the future, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't happen again, because we're still not even over this first one. But if you think about it, I was looking at something online about back in the 1920s where you had pictures and articles about what was happening in 1920 throughout the world with the Spanish flu. And it's kind of, if people forget the past, they will repeat it. I believe in that, because I was looking at some articles about people not wanting to wear masks back in the 20s. I'm looking at, children wearing masks. And I remember being a kid looking at those things and saying to myself, man, that is really crazy and really eerie. And it kind of used to freak me out looking at those black and white pictures. But now you fast forward 100 years later and here we are. It's super crazy, man. I mean, I just don't know how this whole thing just progressed to showing that we're not as of a great society as we thought we were. But I mean, a lot of good positives came out of this. I mean, some of us have learned how to cope with it and to help each other. And unfortunately, others have taken the opportunity to, I like to say this, and I told this to, my niece and some friends of mine, that it's crazy that, you have people that on both sides have been radicalized. You have some sides that say, you know what, we believe in science, we're going to do this, we want to do that. And then you have the other side that says this is all a hoax, they're trying to control us. It's just crazy. Everybody on all sides is radicalized. And I don't think we're ever going to come out of this the same anymore. The year that was in 2019, that era of life is different now, no matter what the outcome is. And no matter how this whole situation plays out in 2021, we are hopeful that, things get back to normal. I mean, I know that certain people already are trying to live normal life when, in reality, they're being kind of irresponsible. You look at Florida, you look at Miami out there, people are not wearing masks. I check out my Instagram and I see people out in clubs partying like it's nothing. But, I hate to say it to you, but, sooner or later, shit's going to catch up. Shit is going to catch up. Can you imagine back in the 80s when AIDS came out and people, didn't take the precautions of having safe sex? Can you imagine? People just said, you know what? Well, this is a hoax. And they just went off and continued that. Eventually, shit will happen, man. And shit will catch up to them. And, I kind of tell people, I try to take my precautions all the time of this whole, going to the grocery store and everything like that. But I hate to say it to you, and I hope that it doesn't occur to me, but if I were to catch this, it's not because I was out there being stupid, but it was simply bad luck. And I hate to say it to you, with the numbers in the population, even with the vaccine, we're not going to be in a situation where the odds are in our favor, really. I mean, you can avoid as much as you can, but it all just takes to be careless at 1 second, one rule, or whatever. But, hopefully at the end of everything, I just hope that everybody realizes that we made it, we survived it. I don't know what 2021 is going to bring to us. I'm not here coming in with like, oh, everything's going to be great and back to normal. Reality is we started that with 2020 and it didn't end that way. And I just really hope we're not in that same situation again. I really don't know, but I have faith, and that's what keeps us going. I have faith that things are just going to work out. I have faith that things are going to just move on, and let's keep this rolling. Now, finishing up with that topic, it's really great to be on this introduction episode because, I'm going to bring a wide range of topics. This is with much respect to, the Three Wise Men podcast. That is our fun to go to topic situation. We love just having conversations. But on this, podcast, I'm actually going to bring a wide range of, different topics. I love talking about a lot of things. I love talking about politics. I love talking about music. I am a movie fanatic. I love weird history. I love just knowing random facts. Everybody says that about me. So the people that don't know me, they know that I am such a random dude, man. I like just talking about weird shit. Not always all the time, though. I'm not crazy or nothing like that, but I just love having fun with it, man. I love comedy. I love just bringing back old retro things and just, surprising people and making people feel like, what the fuck? I haven't heard from that. I haven't seen that in like 20 years, I'm just an outgoing person. And, as many know, and as many of you have also encountered, this whole quarantine thing, being at home is really, it hurts because, you love being social. I love going out there. I love hanging out with family and friends and just having a good time. And, I just don't know how we made it happen in 2020, but we made it through, and that's what's important. This whole podcast idea originally started, believe it or not, back in 2009. I remember hanging out with my homeboy Blance from the Three Wise Man podcast. Awesome DJ. We go way back. We go back to making music out in the Vancouver scene where I grew up. We started off a rap group, kind of a label thing. I used to produce music a lot, and I also helped out a lot of local artists out in that area, many of who have actually gone and done their own thing, which, I respectfully enjoy listening to. Shout out to homeboy Creto out there, also Junior, I know you're listening. But, as the years gone by, as music changes, genres change, society changes. We are definitely not living in 2006 anymore. So does the direction of where you want music to head. And I remember just taking a break from that. And then I've always had a passion just to talk about everything that actually goes through the process. And, I hope to share that episode with you too, in the coming weeks. We're going to try to release as many episodes as we can. I'm going to be consistent with everybody. I want everybody to enjoy this. Whether you're driving home, like I said, or, working from home or whatever the situation is, I want to let you guys know. Just sit back, relax. This is the first episode. So this is kind of just an introduction. And I want to always let people know that, if you have any input or if you actually want to be on the show and just discuss anything, just, reach out to me. I know you guys can find me on Instagram or any other social media outlets. I will be posting that. But, just going back, it's just a crazy year. I really don't know how. Believe it or not, the whole podcast thing started off because of the pandemic. It went from not being able to hang out with your friends to, having wide range discussions, and then all of a sudden starting off a podcast. And, it's great. It's really awesome way to, express yourself and have people listening. It is a blessing to be in this situation. And, we make a bad situation into something positive, and that's really what we got to try to do. I mean, like I said, the mind is stronger than what we think. And if anything, if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in my statement, just look at who you are in 2021 compared to how you started 2020. You are a different person. You are completely not the same person, not living in the same world. It's kind of like what happened. I remember back in high school when, the planes hit the Twin Towers. I mean, right there and there, life was never going to be the same post 2001. And, you kind of see that, look at airport security and all that. And the same goes with this whole pandemic thing. We do not know where the future will lead us to, but what we can do is try to control and have more say in what we want to do as people. I mean, society changes. That's life. We will change according to our circumstances and our environment. And we're going to try to make the best out of anything. And this goes out to anybody. If you look back in Latin America, just using that as an example, you got people that live in poverty, but you know what? They're happy. Why? They're happy because they can actually look back, see their situation, and just enjoy and make a positive out of a negative. And that's what we're going to try to do on this podcast. I mean, I'm going to talk about a wide range of things. I mean, we're going to go from music. We're going to go from, sports. Just enjoy having that conversation. So, I want to welcome everybody to the DroInTheKnow podcast, letting you guys know what's happening in politics, world news, and sports. Thanks again for tuning in. I can't wait to have you guys for the official second episode. And I hope everybody enjoys this week. I know everybody's trying to gather themselves and, we're trying to pick up the pieces of the puzzle. It's kind of like, if to all you Avenger fans out there, I felt that 2020, and I tell this to everybody, was like Avengers, the first one before the end game. I forgot. I can't think of it at the top of my mind. I'm sorry. But I feel like 2021 is Avengers Endgame, and we got to bring this back to the basics. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please hit subscribe, leave a review. You are listening to DroInTheKnow podcast, and I am your host, Dro Breeze. So until then, take care. We'll touch base. Let's get 2020 out of the way. Forget about that fucking nightmare and move forward, and let's get 2021 cracking. All right, y'all. Take care.
From the Pacific Northwest.
Representando a todos los Alvis en los Estados Unidos con Dro Breeze.
You are listening to
You Already Know,
the DroInTheKnow podcast with your host,
the one and only
Dro Breeze.